What's going on YouTube? It's Teej, back again with another video, and today I'm giving you my wild card weekend review. I know the new power rankings here on Tuesdays, but I wanted to talk about the 6 games we had over the weekend, so hopefully you guys are down for that. Let me know what you thought of this past weekend's games. What game was the most interesting to you? What upset did you think was going to happen that didn't or did? Love to hear your thoughts, and what do you think about the divisional round that we're about to head into next weekend? Love to talk football with you down below. Let's go ahead and start. We're just going to use the ESPN scoreboard. It's just the easiest thing right here in front of me. We'll start by talking about the Saturday games, though. Seahawks 49ers. You see the box score there. Another solid game from Brock Purdy. Maybe a little shaky to start. First playoff game, you would kind of expect that. But man, Kyle Shanahan was in his bag. Every time Brandon Ayuk was getting a catch, man had like 5 yards of cushion in every direction around him. I mean, Kyle Shanahan was really doing a whole lot to scheme him up. George Kittle as well. And Christian McCaffrey, you get that first 68-yard run on his first carry. Deebo Samuel runs up for 22 on his first rush. So, when you look at the firepower of these two sides, it's not necessarily even. The 49ers just have so many different, avenues in which they can attack you. But credit to Seattle. They did battle, especially in that second quarter. You see 17-6 here. They brought it to halftime at a really interesting point. You get that long DK Metcalf touchdown, and they were there to fight, and a ton of respect to them. But as things progressed in this game, it just kind of got a little more lopsided in the second half. 25-6 in total in the second set of 30, if you want to call it that. But which is interesting because the last time these two teams met in the playoffs, or in the regular season, I beg your pardon, San Francisco did no scoring in the second half, but they did a whole lot of that on Saturday. So they kind of put it on late, but nonetheless, this kind of ultimately ended up playing like a 7-2 matchup that we expected. And, most people, when it comes to just picking a winner, we're going with San Francisco for a reason. This game, that 7-2 matchup kind of felt like it. Not so much on Sunday. So we'll move on pretty quickly from that one. Chargers Jags, man, this game was awesome. I mean, of course, obviously you get the Chargers way out in front, 20-0. And even then, I thought about tweeting it, but then I went on Twitter just to see if I was feeling the same way. But I was like, man, I don't know. Like, the Chargers, it's just in their DNA to blow this one. And you go on Twitter, and everyone kind of had that same, feeling. There was something in the air where it was like, the Jags are about to make this comeback. I don't know why, but the Chargers are definitely going to choke this. And they did. So not ideal. Only 8 running plays in the second half. I know that a lot has been made of that. They're rushing for a little more than 2 yards a carry. And honestly, if you look at their average depth of target, their passing game essentially is an extension of the run game. So with no Mike Williams in there, they live underneath. So I'm not really too worried about the pass run split because they do a whole lot underneath. And it did feel like the clock was rolling for a good bit of their possession. So that's not really the big concern for me. Really just the Jags, they went back out and they earned this comeback, as lame as that is to say. Their defense came up with a bunch of big stops, and then the offense kind of figured it out. They went up tempo, got Trevor Lawrence in a rhythm, and it showed. Also, this Chargers defense has been fluky all year long, especially in the secondary. Once you lost J.C. Jackson, you had some games, you had some moments where Asante Samuel Jr. looked great, and that's exactly what we saw in the first half, right? He gets those 3 picks. Lawrence throws 4 picks in the first quarter, if not the first quarter, then through the first half. And it was crazy. But then the second half, you basically got the Asante Samuel experience where, the turnovers went away. He starts giving up yardage, and the Jags moved the ball at a really efficient clip. I mean, ETN had a couple big runs as well. And a ton of credit to Doug Peterson. I mean, I still don't really think all the world of these wide receivers. Christian Kirk has maybe impressed me a little bit more than I expected coming into this year, but he's doing a whole lot to get these guys open. And you look at that versus some of the other offenses. I'm a Steelers fan. So you look at, how Matt Canada is not getting receivers open versus how Doug Peterson is getting people open. It certainly makes me jealous that, the Jags have a Doug Peterson and the Steelers don't. So if you're a Jacksonville fan, Doug Peterson was the hire. It was a weird coaching process and a long way to get to the right decision, but ultimately it did make the right decision, bringing him on board. And I mean, this is the Trevor Lawrence type of game that you're looking for with the #1 overall pick. So I meant to ask this off the top, but this is the comment I want you to make. If you're starting a franchise tomorrow, I just give you team 33 in the NFL, and I give you the option of starting a franchise with Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence. Who do you take? I meant to ask that again off top, but I'd love to know, which of those two guys are you taking to start a franchise tomorrow? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I love Herbert. Man, Lawrence really looked good in this game, and sometimes it feels like he's played enough big moments while Herbert will kind of like shrivel up maybe a little bit in those big stages. I'll take Herbert right now. That's my pick. But, in another year's time, I might be really quickly trying to change my opinion on that one. So Herbert or Lawrence, if you could start a franchise tomorrow, who would you take as your quarterback? But anyways, no, let's go back to this game. The Jags defense comes up with timely stops. They had a really good showing on that Saturday night game in Week 18 to get them in the playoffs, and then they came up with some big stops down the stretch against the Chargers with an offense that has firepower. Keenan Allen 4 yards short of 65, and in the second half, not a whole lot of Austin Eckler. So do want to give credit to the Jags. But this is a little bit of both, right? Like the Chargers collapsed and the Jags made the comeback. I think it takes 2 to tango here. But now the question is, like, what do the Chargers do with Brandon Staley? I've always been a big Brandon Staley proponent and a big fan, but it is interesting. Last year he was so aggressive, and then this year this kind of went by the wayside. He didn't had the opportunity to go for it late. Decides to take a 3, and then you get Doug Peterson with the extra opportunity down at the 1 yard line, decides to go for 2. And Trevor Lawrence, hey, awesome recognition. That wasn't the play. They were going to run a screen, but stretches the ball out over the goal line and gets those 2 points. That's a franchise quarterback. That's an elite quarterback. That's the type of play you want to make. So I'm actually going to come back to that point. So love that Lawrence did that, and I love that Peterson was that aggressive. And that's the big reason the Jags couldn't even make the comeback. So, but we'll come back to that Lawrence point in 2 games down. Talk about the Sunday slate. Bills Dolphins. This game started like a runaway blowout. Like it felt like Buffalo was going to win by 40, and then all of a sudden that quickly dissipated. And you can see that right here in the first half box score. But hey, when Buffalo's offense is clicking, they're still gross. No doubt about it. And Stephon Diggs in the first half was unbelievable. And I have 2 major concerns about the Bills if they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. One is Josh Allen's turnover proneness, which unfortunately that was still on display. A couple of picks, and then you get the fumble that becomes a fumble 6 for Miami. So his turnover nature this year has been a little concerning, and it's been worse than I think I've seen at any point in his career. So as the president of the Josh Allen fan club, categorized me a little concerned. But then my other concern for the Bills is when Stephon Diggs is taken away, what does that offense look like, right? Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and mute that. I heard that run out of the background. It was driving me insane, so a little behind the scenes. But nonetheless, when Stephon Diggs gets taken away, what are the Bills' offense? What does it do? To me, it gets kind of mid, and it gets a little lethargic. This game, though, it felt like as you got in the fourth quarter, you even had the Gabe Davis touchdown earlier on. Playoff Gabe is back in full force, which is good to see. But, like that Gabe Davis touchdown, like that's the type of play I want to see somebody else make besides Stephon Diggs, right? Did a great job, great play call. Ken Dorsey drew it up well and called it up well against that cover 2. Davis ran it perfectly, got to the corner of the end zone, got to that pylon, and Josh Allen, that's exactly where he delivered the throw. Toe tap was chef's kiss from Gabe Davis, and they got the point. So, what does this offense do when Stephon Diggs is taken away? Because Xavier Howard in the second half did a really good job limiting Stephon Diggs. So, not just Gabe Davis, though. You got a couple of big grabs from Khalil Shakir. He also had an important drop in the first half, but he also made some pretty big catches in the second half. And you also are a week away from John Brown getting behind the defense and getting the end zone, too. So, I need to continue seeing those secondary pieces for Buffalo continue to be a big part of the offense and free up Stephon Diggs a little bit more, just in case you get into a spot where he's shut down. I want to see that offense still be able to move the football. Miami, man, valiant effort in comeback fashion. Skylar Thompson, I don't think played bad. He didn't play great, but he didn't play bad. I'd love to see this game with Tua Tagovailoa, but nonetheless, especially after a shaky start early, I think Skylar Thompson did enough to get his team back. Also, Thompson was not aided early by a couple of drops from both Hill and Waddle. And then you also had that other play in the first quarter with Trey White getting his hand in, breaking it up. Could have been a drop for Waddle, could have been a PBU for White, depends on how you see it. But yeah, nonetheless, Thompson wasn't getting a whole lot of help from his teammates there early on, and he didn't look too sharp. But then his defense, like I said last week, and on the hurry up offense, if you missed it, definitely go back, check it out if you don't believe me. This Dolphins defense is on the verge of becoming a very scary defense, very scary unit in and of itself. Jalen Phillips is taking that step forward, and he's starting to become a double-digit sack type of guy year in and year out. So I'm really excited about that. And Christian Wilkins, like if you've watched enough Miami games, there is no reason a man that big moves that fast. So that pass rush, that defensive line, that's a huge strength. Jerome Baker was all over the field. Xavier Howard, rocky first half, but definitely bounce back in the second half. Love to see what this defense looks like with Byron Jones out there, right? But Kudrow has done a good job there as that number 2 corner. So, I think this is another team in a year's time we could be talking about that defense being just as scary as its offense, which is to say something. Which we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, everything needs to stay intact. Everything needs to stay healthy. But that defense, I think, is really scary. Of course, also Josh Allen turnovers certainly go a long way to make you look pretty good. So Bills survive, they escape. But man, that game was way more interesting. This is that 7-2 matchup where it's like, wow, that game shouldn't have been that close, especially after how it started. Anyways, Giants Vikings. Wow, where to begin with this one? I feel like I could talk about a lot in this game, but it really all comes down to what happened late. One, I just want to give credit. Brian Dable continues to just do a fantastic job. If you missed my awards video earlier this week, came out on Monday. He's my coach of the year. I don't care. I know Nick Sirianni, number one in the NFC. And he's the odds-on favorite. He was my preseason pick to win the award, but there's no team that surprises me that they're in the playoffs more than the Giants, with the exception of maybe Seattle, but I credit that mostly to Geno and John Snyder. Here, this is Brian Dable. This is Brian Dable working magic, and they won a playoff game. I mean, like, insane. Daniel Jones, in his running ability, was fully put on display, especially early on, but he played a good game as a passer as well. I mean, this was one of the best games of Daniel Jones' career, and he really has had a career here. I still don't think it's franchise elite level play, but it is a career year nonetheless, and he really stepped it up. And you counter that to, of course, now I'm not really fast forward, Kirk Cousins, that 4th and 8, I mean, the last play of their season, he throws it short of sticks. What are we doing there? TJ Hawkinson, I had Hawkinson catch props, I had Hawkinson receiving yards props, so he made me a decent amount of money on the day. But on that 4th and 8, like, what are we doing? Throwing that pass short of the sticks? Did you think it was 3rd down? Like, I am still baffled by that decision by Kirk Cousins, just kind of reverting back to his true Washington form, I suppose. But nonetheless, it's really frustrating when you look at what Kirk Cousins has done this year, and it felt like he kind of shook that conservative coat that he had on. Like years past with Mike Zimmer, he was not going to take any chances. This year, we've seen him put the ball in harm's way if it's in the direction of number 18. Right, like the Bills game epitomizes that. Just give the dude a shot, and he may come down with the greatest catch of the decade. And Justin Jefferson did that. So why not in the second half? I know the Giants are bracketing coverage, and honestly, that secondary did a really good job. Justin Jefferson did not have anything easy, but he's one of those guys, as cliche as it is to say, he's open when he's not. You just got to give him a shot. Case in point, the Bills game again. So for him to only get 3 second half targets and none on that last drive is just abysmal. I think part of that's Kevin O'Connell. That drive started with 2 screens, one to Dalvin Cook and then one to TJ Hawkinson, which fine with screens, I guess, but gotta get it, need to win. This is the drive. You're gonna set up a screenplay for somebody other than your best player, for an aging running back and a tight end who is athletic enough, but not necessarily fleet of foot to get up the field. What are we doing there? So Kevin O'Connell, kind of a weird game with his play calling, in my opinion, a little up and down. And then even with that, though, like even if Kevin O'Connell's plays are focused on freeing up, a TJ Hawkinson and Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, or whatever, if he's putting his focus and attention trying to get open other guys, the supporting cast, Kirk Cousins still has to, go Trevor Lawrence. Say, hey, we called a screen, but I see an opening. I'm going to stretch the ball out over the goal line. I'm going to get this 2-point conversion. We're going to win this game. Like, that's a QB taking control of the situation, and Kirk just didn't. He was like, no, I'm going to, throw this screen. I'm going to throw another screen instead of looking for 18. Like, go find your best player. Go give your best player a shot. Like, I was so irritated by that, but that's just me. I'm not even a Vikings fan, but I love wide receiver cornerback play. And when you have one of the best wide receivers in football, I even tweeted this, if you have a top 3 wide receiver, you're not giving him a shot, that's interesting. What are we doing here? What's the point of having him on the roster? So that's frustrating. That's disappointing. Kirk Cousins kind of revert back to his conservative shell there, and it cost the Vikings. And that defense is so bad. Last note here for this game, Ed Donatel. I mean, I'd be surprised we're not looking for a new DC. And the thing is, like, you look at what Donatel does in this game, and you compare it to what the Ravens did literally on Sunday Night Football, or what the Eagles have done all year long. And we're going to play deep coverage shells. We're going to let you attack underneath. And the Giants were all about it. They were like, we're going to attack the underbelly of this defense. But the problem is, like, and kind of going back to Jeff's point, how long did New York let you go in this game without seeing 26 with the football in his hands? Just trying to nail home that point. Saquon Barkley was always in rhythm in this offense, and they were always making sure he had touches. So, he was being a factor. Anyways, he was a big reason and a big tool they used to attack that underbelly, and they did a really good job. And because of that, the Vikings defense, they're playing so far back, they don't have the athletes that the Ravens do. They don't have the speed that the Eagles do. This is an old, slow defense. So when you let a team attack the underbelly of your soft, deep coverage defense, you're going to get picked apart. And it's going to be 8 yards before you reach the ball carrier. And next thing you know, it's 2nd and 2, run play, Saquon Barkley first down. How many times did we see that on Sunday? That felt like the game the entire time the Giants had the ball on offense. So, they're going to have to reshape a lot of things. I know Donatel doesn't have a whole lot of talent on that side of the ball either. So it's a little bit of what came first, chicken or the egg, but they got to figure out something on that side of the football. Now let's move on. Sunday Night Football ended up becoming a really good game. Ravens Bengals, and Tyler Huntley, made some mistakes. Obviously, get that early pick, and then trying to go up and over the top, and then the fumble that becomes Sam Hubbard touchdown. Craziness, but I do want to give a ton of credit to the Ravens. That defense continues to be really scrappy, really physical too, and it's really interesting. You look at this Ravens team; they almost thrive with this villain persona. Like, they like being the bad guys. You got Marcus Peters down the ground, like literally screaming in the dude's face. Then he gets the flag, and then when Harbaugh's asked about it on the sideline, what'd you think of that flag? I didn't like it. What do you mean you didn't like it? What are you talking about? Of course, it's got to be unsportsmanlike conduct. But they kind of just thrive in this, like, everyone hates us, and we love that. So they stayed tough. They battled. J.K. Dobbins, I mean, I've been saying it since he came back from injury. That dude is a stud in the making, which we were saying that before his injury too. But man, he looks just as good after the injury, which is a huge feather in the cap moving forward for the Baltimore Ravens. Mark Andrews with some big plays as well. But yeah, ultimately lack of a deep passing game kind of kept them out of this one. And then when you look at the Bengals, like Jamar Chase, I kind of going back to the Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson conversation from the last game. What was the longest stretch of plays between number one touching the football, or at least number one getting the target, right? Like, they were always looking at Jamar Chase. And this is a Bengals offense with a plethora of options, but they're still making sure Chase is the forefront of it. So as I was watching that game and he's having a great game, I was thinking back to the Vikings. So sorry to continue to drone on that point, but I mean, hey, sound win there from the Viking. Excuse me, now I'm getting all frazzled. Sound win there for the Bengals. Got the job done at home, taking down a division opponent. This is like the exact defense I think that causes them the most problems. And Burrow struggled against the Ravens during the regular season. So yeah, it was good to see them pull out this win. And now they're 4-point underdogs against Buffalo. And I don't know. I think Baltimore is the exact defense that kind of gives Cincinnati fits. And then I look at the Bills on their side, and Josh Allen's turned it over twice a game, it feels like, at least. Man, I don't know. I kind of like the Bengals getting points, and I might have to bet their money line there. Cincy might be the better team. I don't know. I'm really excited for that divisional matchup, though. But good win there for Cincy. Then we close out the weekend with Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Bucks, and everybody for Dallas. Simply put, we won't talk about this game a whole lot. Everybody for Dallas played a good game except for Brett Maher. What the hell was that? But yeah, and then you get this late surge, these 14 points in the second half there from the Bucks, trying to make it interesting, but it wasn't an interesting game. Dallas Dolphins got back on track, and that was, like, if you were somebody who, while we talked about on the hurry up offense, if you were Dallas minus 2.5, you were just banking on, hey, that Washington game was an outlier. The rest of their season has been really, really good offensively since the Dak Prescott injury. And even before the Dak Prescott injury, they were like competent with Cooper Rush, right? That Washington game, that's just like the only game where it looked that bad. And you were proven right. Like, if that was your faith and hope in this Dallas team, you were proven correct. And congratulations, Mike McCarthy. I think he's now going to keep his job. I think this was a big first step in the right direction. Maybe Sean Payton, if they don't make it to the conference championships, maybe Jerry Jones gets upset with that, calls up his buddy Sean Payton. But I think now Mike McCarthy's sealed his status as the 2023-24 head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And meanwhile, the Bucks. I mean, Brady's going to be gone. What are they doing with Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles? I'm fascinated. I don't think either one of those guys necessarily had a great year from a coaching perspective and an OC perspective for Leftwich. But yeah, all in all, sorry, not a pretty game, not a whole lot to talk about here. Dallas was just by far and away the better team. So now I'm really interested to see how the Bucks break apart or potentially run it back all again. So ready for the offseason. But that is going to do it for my wild card weekend review. Again, let me know in the comments section down below. If you could start a franchise tomorrow, are you taking Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert? If somebody offers you those two quarterbacks, which one of those franchise guys are you taking to start your franchise tomorrow? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. But also let me know what you thought about wild card weekend. Which game was the most surprising? Which one had you the most baffled? Love to hear your takes down below in the comment section. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day. But that's going to do it for me. Until next time, my name is Teach, and I'm signing off.